Hello everyone, Scott Schoen here from the Family Martial Arts Academy. Today I'll be talking a little bit more about practice and how to encourage yourself and how to encourage your children to practice. And last time we had talked about encouraging kids to practice is going to be far more effective than requiring it or forcing them to practice. And at the same time, setting those goals and making some promises and helping them to keep their promises is going to be important too. So I thought I'd just go over some different points today quickly. So one of the things that I always like to think about is that children role model our behavior. And so if you're training, in piano with your child, or if you're doing martial arts with your child and you're practicing on your own, it's much more likely that your child's going to practice. Sort of second best to that would be if you have something that you're working on, something that you're trying to do, and you practice too. So, your child is learning to read, and so you're reading with them. And you read books on your own, and they see you doing that. That's more likely that they're going to read too. Or, if your child is taking an art class and you want him to practice, and you're practicing piano, it will make more sense for him to practice too. It's hard for children to understand why they should have to do something when we don't. And a lot of times, at the academy, I'll see, our parents are so awesome and supportive. They'll stand up in the lobby and they bow with the kids and they say the student oath with the kids. And that makes a big difference. Then, I've got a 5 or a 6-year-old out there that normally isn't looking to do that or to bow or to really be respectful. And he looks over and sees his mom and dad doing it and he thinks, well, if they do it, then it must be good for me too. So I'll go ahead and do it. So setting that good example of practice yourself is going to make a huge difference. Give lots of praise. Now, I know there's some different articles out there and different psychologists that are saying that we overpraise our kids today and that, that's ineffective. And I can see where they're coming from, and I think they've really identified something, which is the insincerity. Johnny, you're doing great. You're doing so good. Everything's wonderful. That then is definitely not going to work. But sincere praise, where you're identifying a behavior that you like, that something that you want to see again from your children, is always going to be welcome. And I really believe in the 5-to-1 ratio, or even a 10-to-1 ratio of positive to negative. It's just simple when you think about it. You don't want to be around people that are constantly telling you how you're doing things wrong, or different things like that. And it's something that can be very challenging for parents and teachers to just get into that habit. Don't do this, don't do that. Try and get into the habit of a 5-to-1 ratio. And there's been a lot of studies that show, with marriages and with relationships, when there's that 5-to-1 positive to negative ratio, the relationships last a lot longer and they're much more productive than if you just are always negative. So, stick with lots of praise, some correction, and make all of your corrections and your praise really positive. Set up a regular practice session, starting out small and working up to what is appropriate for their age and their ambition level. So, new students are probably not going to practice at all, and that's normal and that's okay. And then encouraging them, enticing them to practice, seeing if they might start off with 5 minutes once a week. I know that doesn't seem like a lot. It's going to make a huge impact. It's not the individual 5 minutes that's important. And it's not what they practice. It's not how good they look. It's establishing the habit of practice. After they've been practicing for 5 minutes once a week for 2 or 3 months, you have an established habit of practice. And then it might go up to twice a week for 5 minutes. And then it could go up to 3 times a week. But it depends on their age level, and the more consistent the practice, the better. And remember too that the practice that they can actually do versus the practice we wish they were doing is always going to be better. So you don't want to say, okay, Johnny, you're going to practice for 45 minutes 3 times a week because piano lessons are important, or because reading is important, or because karate is important. And then, they do that for 2 weeks and then they just get sick of it and they don't do it. And you say, I can't force them. It's just taking so much effort. We're going to drop the whole thing. And we're not going to practice. Instead, say, let's start off with 5 minutes. They practice 5 minutes each week. You're saying to yourself, boy, I wish they were practicing 45 minutes, 3 times a week. But the practice that they're actually doing consistently, the promise that they can keep, and the schedule they can keep for practice is far better than the one you wish they could do. And it's the same thing when it comes to ourselves, establishing new habits. The habits that we can actually do are the ones we want to instill, not the ones we wish we could. We should all be working out for 2.5 hours, 3 times a week. Well, that would be great if you're going to be a magazine model. But for most people, that's just completely unrealistic. And that image of how much you should be working out is what's stopping them from working out 15 minutes 3 times a week and getting in better shape. So let go of what you wish you could be doing and start doing what you actually can do. And make sure when a child establishes a new habit, make a big deal out of it. Because people that have the ability to keep promises and establish good habits are people that are successful in life. And even if they never become, great at the piano or at martial arts, but they learn the habit, or they learn how to establish habits and keep promises, that is going to make a huge difference in their life. So think about that. Talk about their next level or goal. So, if they're taking piano, it's their next recital. In karate, it's the next belt. If they're taking an art class, it's finishing up their project. So you're talking about it, you're rewarding it. And when I say rewarding, it could be a treat, but it could also just be time with parents. It could be praise from parents, All those kinds of things can be a big reward. Play a game. Turn practice into a game. Practice your son's moves with him in karate, or, sit down with him and have him show you how to play a piece of piano. Let him be the teacher. Turn it into a game, involve his friends somehow. All those kinds of things make a huge difference. And sort of like I said earlier, my next point is training with them. Training with your kids is going to be the biggest way to motivate them to want to do something. Because even though kids, at times are oppositional to parents and don't want them around, it seems like that. I think that's normal, that's natural, but when they see you doing something, internally they know they want to look up to you, they want to do what you do. So even in those teenage years, ignore that. Don't pay attention to them saying, I don't want you around, I'm cool, I'm on my own. Secretly, they do want you around. Secretly, they do look up to you. And so what you do, they're going to do. This is sort of a fun thing to do, is to give a random praise or to give a random small gift. And this way, it constantly keeps them guessing. Jimmy, you've been practicing now, and you've been doing a great job, and I just wanted to say how proud I am and all the progress you've made with your reading. Here is, this toy, or here is this treat, or we're going to go to the art museum, or you're going to get to take a 20-minute walk with mom and dad and tell us all about your day because you're doing such a great job. And when the kid asks why, say it's a surprise. Kids love surprises. My wife loves surprises. So remember that idea and keep it random. Don't say, okay, in the next 3 months, I'm going to give you another surprise. Don't tell them. It's all over the place. And then pretty soon they'll be saying, when am I going to get my next surprise? Well, I can't tell you or it wouldn't be a surprise. Now they're always thinking, okay, what's coming next?